You're 10 years old, sitting cross-legged at your grandmother's house on Thanksgiving weekend. The familiar clink of coins echoes as you sort through your collection, while the warmth of family fills the rooms around you. Your mom and sisters are laughing in the kitchen. Everything feels normal, safe. Then, your father walks in. His eyes are empty, like nothing you've ever seen before. In his hands, a rifle. You run, the only survivor of what happens next. Your grandmother's desperate 911 call, your mother's final moments, your sister's last breaths. You're left with an impossible question that will haunt you forever. Why did Dad let you live when he took everyone else away? This is the story of the Kahler family massacre, a story almost too gruesome to tell. These were the last words of 89-year-old Dorothy Wright would ever speak. On Thanksgiving weekend 2009, what should have been a warm family gathering turned into an unthinkable nightmare. The 911 dispatcher could only listen helplessly as Dorothy's terrified voice crackled through the line. When first responders arrived at Dorothy's farmhouse in Kansas, they were confronted with a scene that would haunt them forever. One officer later recalled,
I remember saying to myself, what the hell? How many more could there possibly be?
Too many, as it turned out. Far too many. Following a trail of blood that no one should ever have to see, officers discovered body after body. Dorothy in the kitchen, Karen, her 44-year-old granddaughter, lifeless in the living room, Karen's 18-year-old daughter, Emily, who had tried to hide behind the couch. And upstairs, they heard a faint voice. 16-year-old Lauren was fighting for her life with her last breaths. This sight was enough to have detectives in tears.
Her lower right side was turning purple as I was watching it, so I could see the blood pooling up internally.
But they didn't have time to cry. They needed to save her life. She was begging them to.
Hold on. Don't move.
I'm here.
I know. Don't move.
I don't want to die.
I'm going to take care of you, okay?
Make me alive.
Make me alive. One last wish, except they couldn't grant it to her. Lauren died that day. And with her dying breath, Lauren revealed their killer's identity. Craig, she said. When the officer asked who that was, she managed two final words. My dad. This is the story of the Kahler family, of love turned to obsession, of control masquerading as care, and 4 innocent lives cut tragically short. But more than that, it's a warning about the red flags we often ignore, about the fine line between love and control, and how quickly DV can escalate to deadly violence. Looking at old family photos of the Kahlers, you'd see what everyone else saw, the picture-perfect American family. Karen and James Craig Kahler met at Kansas State University, where their love story began like thousands of others. He was in his final year of engineering, already mapping out his ambitious future. She was a confident freshman, full of dreams and potential. Their connection was instant, their future seemingly blessed. Their firstborn, Emily, inherited her mother's creativity and intelligence. She was the classic overachiever, the one teachers always praised, the kind of student who made parenting look easy.
Emily was the firstborn, and she was a smart kid, a pleaser, wanted to do good, kind of like her mom, creative and smart.
She would go on to pursue pharmacy studies at St. Louis College, making her family proud with every achievement. Lauren, their second daughter, brought a different energy to the family. She was the free spirit, the one who thought outside the box, who filled their home with music.
She was kind of silly, more of a creative, outside the box kind of a thinker.
Both girls formed an all-girls rock band, and their passion for music brought joy to everyone around them. Even the neighbors would come to watch them play sometimes. They were bright, kind, funny, and everyone loved them. Well, almost everyone, but we'll get to that in a bit. Sean was their youngest, around 6 years younger than Lauren, completing what seemed like the perfect family unit. In 1999, opportunity knocked. Craig landed a prestigious position as a utility director in Weatherford, Texas. The salary was impressive, the community welcoming, and the future bright. The Kahlers moved into a beautiful house near Fort Worth, and Karen quickly became everyone's favorite neighbor, known for her warmth and generosity. She would bake cakes for newcomers, offer food to anyone in need, and their children were the kind every parent wanted their kids to befriend. But behind the pristine facade of their Texas home, darkness was growing. What neighbors couldn't see was how Craig's love for Karen had morphed into something sinister. It started subtly, as it often does, a suggestion here, a demand there. Soon, Karen was living under an increasingly rigid set of rules that would have shocked anyone who knew their seemingly perfect life. Karen confided in her sister Lynn about the nightmare her marriage had become. Craig imposed strict curfews, treating his adult wife like a teenager. He gave her an allowance, monitoring every penny she spent. Every receipt had to be presented for his inspection. Every purchase justified to his satisfaction. Most disturbing was his demand for intimate relations, 8 p.m. sharp, every single night. Honestly, how creepy is that? This wasn't about love or connection, it was about power.
If she didn't do what he wanted, bedtime at 9, she would, quote, pay for it.
This was not love, it was imprisonment. Karen learned to survive by complying. It was easier to follow his rules than face his rage. She kept receipts, came home on time, submitted to his demands, anything to keep the peace.
She found it just easier to go along with, okay, he expects this, so I might as well just do it so I don't have to pay for it later.
This pattern, compliance born out of fear rather than love, is exactly what narcissistic, volatile partners with historic tendencies rely on. Later, Craig would be diagnosed with both narcissistic and histrionic personality disorders, and his behavior was textbook. He knew Karen wasn't submitting out of love, but out of terror, and that was perfectly acceptable to him. This is how deeply disturbing such controlling partners can be. They don't want love, they want ownership. To them, a partner isn't an independent human being with their own dreams, wishes, and fears. They're property to be controlled, and fear is just as good a tool as any to maintain that control. Inside, Karen was dying slowly, her spirit crushed under the weight of his control. In 2008, Karen found her escape at a local gym. Between dropping the kids at school and preparing dinner, she carved out a small piece of freedom for herself. In those precious hours, she could breathe, move, exist without Craig's suffocating presence. She was so dedicated and talented that they hired her as a fitness instructor. To everyone's surprise, Craig allowed it. As long as she was home in time for his 8 p.m. requirement, perhaps he thought allowing this small freedom would keep her compliant in other areas. Perhaps he simply couldn't find a reason to object, and that would raise suspicions among their friends. It was at the gym that Karen met Sunny Reese, another personal trainer. Their friendship blossomed quickly, built on genuine care and mutual respect. For the first time in years, Karen felt seen as a person, not as a possession. Their connection deepened, and soon Karen discovered something she hadn't felt in years: love.
My theory is Karen was so beaten down for so long. Finally, somebody took an interest in her in a positive way and treated her well.
When Karen gathered the courage to confess her feelings for Sunny to Craig, his reaction was unexpected. He encouraged it, but not out of understanding or compassion. He saw it as an opportunity for his own fantasies, imagining himself part of their relationship. He dreamed of a threesome situation, revealing how he viewed both women as objects for his pleasure, rather than human beings with their own feelings and desires. Plot twist, it backfired.
It became obvious that Karen and Sunny were both interested in each other and not in him, and kind of started pushing him out of the picture. Then he became extremely jealous of that relationship.
When Karen and Sunny's connection deepened, excluding him entirely, Craig's controlling nature resurfaced with a vengeance. His fantasy had backfired spectacularly, and his response would prove devastating. Desperate to break Karen and Sunny apart, Craig orchestrated a move to Columbia, Missouri, 700 miles away. He took a new job as the city's highest paid employee, believing distance would end their relationship. He was forcing his entire family to uproot their lives, all to maintain his control over Karen. By the way, this was his cue to break up with Karen. Why obsess over possessing someone who doesn't even want to be with you? And as you probably guessed it, his master plan didn't didn't work. Karen and Sonny maintained their connection through calls, texts, and secret meetings. They would meet halfway between their cities whenever possible, writing long emails when they couldn't be together. Their love grew stronger, perhaps because of Craig's attempts to control it. Like any forbidden romance, the obstacles only made their bond more powerful. The breaking point came on New Year's 2009. Back in Weatherford for the holidays, Karen and Sonny's relationship was now obvious to everyone, including Craig. Yeah, Sonny was there. They were done hiding. The way they looked at each other spoke volumes. Karen's teenage daughters knew and supported their mother's happiness. They'd seen their dad terrorize her for their entire lives. They wanted her to be happy, and they adored Sonny for the kind, giving person she was. But to people like Craig, this was personal. His daughters had sided with the enemy. This was the final blow to his fragile ego. That night, his control finally turned to physical violence. After a heated argument, he pushed Karen, causing her to hit her head on the street. For the first time, Karen truly feared for her life. She filed for divorce days later, moved into the spare room of their house, and hoped it would be enough to keep her safe. It wasn't. Craig's behavior became increasingly erratic. He called Karen's family constantly, alternating between begging them to help win her back and viciously spreading rumors about her. He called her names for having a lesbian affair and claimed she wanted to steal his money and children. When he wasn't harassing Karen's family, he was stalking her. He broke into her home to hack her emails and install hidden cameras. When Karen found her car tires slashed, she knew exactly who was responsible. She called the police and had him arrested. In her statement to law enforcement, Karen finally documented years of abuse. Over time, it has become apparent that Craig is controlling. I have learned along the way that he is capable of using force. The issues vary, but I figured out how to keep things from becoming ugly. When money was a problem, I wouldn't tell him what things cost. When it was about sex, I decided it was easier to give him what he wanted every night than to refuse. On occasion, I would refuse, and he has been known to be forceful and mean. I'm afraid it will escalate so far that someone is going to be seriously hurt. After the arrest, Craig cut his teenage daughters out of his life completely. He refused to see them or even speak about them, only wanting contact with his son, Sean. He referred to Emily and Lauren as rotting corpses. It's honestly sickening that a parent could even think of calling their kids that. But this is just the tip of the iceberg when you consider what Craig did next. By summer 2009, Craig's behavior had become even more disturbing. At work, he was volatile and unpredictable. He would show colleagues photos of his family obsessively, leave work without notice to spy on Karen, and fly into rages at the smallest provocations. In September, he was fired from his job. Though they paid him 2 months' salary, his recent behavior made future employment unlikely. He moved back in with his parents, his life crumbling around him. But instead of reflecting on his own actions, his obsession with controlling Karen only grew stronger. November 28th, 2009, Thanksgiving weekend. Karen, her daughters, and young Sean gathered at Grandma Dorothy's farmhouse. Dorothy had driven to Craig's family home that morning to pick up Sean, who'd spent Friday with his father. They were trying to create a new normal to build happy memories despite everything. They couldn't know that Craig had other plans. When Dorothy made that desperate 911 call, she couldn't have known she was about to become one of 4 victims. When the first responders arrived, they found a scene of unimaginable horror. Dorothy lay on the kitchen floor, multiple gunshot wounds marking her final moments. Karen was in the living room while Emily had tried to hide behind the couch, a futile attempt to escape her father's rage. Lauren was found upstairs, clinging to her life just long enough to name their killer. Only Sean survived, having run to a neighbor's house when he saw his father enter with a rifle and that cold, lifeless look in his eyes. The 10-year-old boy would later testify about cleaning coins when he saw his father enter, watching helplessly as his world fell apart. Imagine that, finding the strength to testify against your dad after he annihilated your entire family, having to live with that memory forever. And to think that Craig Kahler sees himself as some sort of hero for sparing his favorite kid's life. Yeah, that's what he said. When the police caught up with Craig 8 hours later, he approached them with an eerie calm. "I'm the guy you're looking for," he said, as if he'd just borrowed someone's parking spot. In his truck, they found a disturbing collection of items: ammunition, an unopened bottle of anxiety medication, cleaning supplies, canned food, and a backpack. Everything needed for a planned escape. But most chilling was what they found in his demeanor. No remorse, no emotion, nothing. This was all he had to say to justify his actions.
"This doesn't look really very good, as you, I'm sure, can well understand. And I'm just obviously it's the Sonny connection." I said, "I'm just so happy. If there's something you wanted to try, just don't want to lose you in the process. Just be careful." Right. Just trying to be nice about it. So what happened? It just became just a relationship that took over.
The Sonny connection. One investigator later said,
The biggest thing for me, and that I still have no answer for, is how a father can do that to his children. He literally had to chase one of his daughters through the house.
During his trial, Craig's defense tried to argue insanity, that losing his wife to another woman, losing his job, and moving back with his parents had broken his mind. They pointed to his diagnosed depression, anxiety, OCD, and personality disorders, narcissistic and histrionic. The unopened anxiety medication in his car, they argued, proved his mental state. But the prosecution saw through it. This wasn't a sudden snap. This was a culmination of years of controlling behavior. The final act of a man who believed if he couldn't control his family, no one could have them. Expert psychologists testified that while Craig did suffer from mental illness, he was fully capable of distinguishing right from wrong. Like, think about it. You can't just unalive 4 people and then be like, "But wait, I have anxiety." That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. The law isn't stupid. It knows tons of us deal with mental health stuff: depression, anxiety, personality disorders, you name it. Pretty much everyone's brain gets spicy sometimes. But having mental health challenges doesn't mean you get a murder people for free card. The real question courts ask isn't, does this person have mental health issues? It's, did they know murdering people was wrong when they did it? And Craig, he knew exactly what he was doing. He literally saved his son while killing everyone else. That is not someone who didn't understand that killing is wrong. Even during the trial, Craig's true nature showed through. He showed no emotion as the verdict was read. When victim impact statements were being read, he asked to leave the room. The judge forced him to stay and listen to the impact of his actions.
Kahler showed no emotion today as he heard his fate. The execution sentence comes as retribution for the shooting deaths of 4 family members.
The court at this time sentences the defendant for the crime of capital murder to death.
James Craig Kahler opted not to speak on his own behalf and even asked if he could leave the room to avoid hearing the victim impact statements. Chief Judge Philip Fromm ordered him to stay.
I loved Grandma White, Karen, Emily, and Lauren very much, and will miss them until the end of my days.
Lynn Denton spoke of her grandmother, her 2 nieces, and her sister, the 4 women brutally murdered 2 years ago in Burlingame, Kansas.
I still want to pick up the phone and call her. When the phone rings, I want to hear her cheery voice say, "Hi, sister."
A jury recommended the death penalty for Kahler last month, but Judge Fromm had the final say. He also denied Kahler's motion for a new trial.
From death row, he wrote letters saying he felt relieved after killing his family, believing he had freed Sean from Karen's relationship with Sonny. Yeah, he is still saying he helped his son. Even now, he continues to appeal his sentence, showing no understanding of the devastation he's caused. Today, Sean lives with his grandparents. He graduated high school and works in Kansas, carrying an unimaginable burden of trauma and loss. One can only hope he finds peace despite the horror he witnessed. The Kahler family tragedy isn't just another true crime story. It is a stark reminder that DV often hides behind perfect facades, that controlling behavior isn't love, it's violence waiting to happen, that when someone shows you who they are through small acts of control, believe them. Karen's story reminds us that it is never too late to seek freedom, but also that the most dangerous time for a victims is when they try to leave. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic abuse, reach out. There are people waiting to help. Remember Dorothy, Karen, Emily, and Lauren. Remember that behind their tragic end was a story of hope, of a woman finding the courage to be herself, of daughters supporting their mother's happiness, of love blooming, even in the darkest of circumstances. And remember that the red flags of control and manipulation are never just the way they are. They're warnings. Sometimes, as in this case, they're matters of life and death. Hey, thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on this case, and what do you do to keep yourself and your loved ones safe from red flag encounters? Leave a thoughtful comment, and before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. See you soon, yeah?